Good morning, guys. I hope that you are doing well. I am going to show you a little bit more about interquartile range today. I know we talked about that a little bit yesterday in the box plots video. However, it looks a little bit different depending on if you have an even number of data points or an odd number of data points. So I want to show you 3 different examples so that you can really see what you are to do with each type of data set that you are going to be given. So please make sure that you refer to these while you're working on your assignment today. So our first data set right here, we have 12, 7, 29, 31, 26, and 16. Okay, so the first order of business every single time, no matter what, is to put them in order from least to greatest. So let's go ahead and do that now. The smallest number I see is 7. So then, and remember, I like to cross off as I go. So we have 7, and then we have, I see 12 and 16 in the teens. Okay, so I've got 12, I've got 16. Now in the 20s, I have 26 and 29. And if you guys can do them 2 at a time like that, I don't mind that, as long as you make sure that you are crossing them off. 26, 29. So we've got 26, we've got 29. And then our last number is 31. And I'm going to go ahead and cross that off. So we have 31 for our last data point. Okay. So now we have our numbers in order from least to greatest. So now that we have that, we can find the median here. So when we're looking here, I'm going to just draw lines underneath again so we can see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then I have 2 numbers left in the middle. So remember, when I have 2 numbers left in the middle, my median is going to be the average of those 2 numbers. And remember, in order to find the average, we have to add them together. So when I add 16 plus 26, I get 42. And then I will divide 42 divided by 2, and that gives me 21. So my median is actually 21. Now, when we're looking at Q1, and this actually should say Q3, so I'm sorry about that. Let me go ahead and fix that. Anyway, when we're looking at Q1 and Q3, we really want to make sure that we do this properly. When I have an even number of data set like this, where my median really is not in my data set, what I like to do in order to keep that straight is draw your little wings or whiskers like we did for the box and whiskers. However, you see that 21 is not included, but 16 and 26 are. That is how you need to do it with an even number of data points. So when I'm finding Q1, mark off 7, mark off 16, look there, 12 is my middle. So 12 would be Q1. And then Q3, 1 high, 1 low, and I get 29 in the center. So 29 is my Q3. Now remember, range is the difference. Always, 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 big minus small. IQR is interquartile range. So that means that interquartile, between quartile 1 and quartile 3 range. So we do Q3 minus Q1. And when we do that here, we have 29 minus, well, if I can get it, minus 17, or I mean, sorry, 12 equals 17. Okay, so there we go. That's how we find all of it for that kind of data set. So we had 6 points in that data set. Our median wasn't truly in our data set, so we do not include those numbers, or we still do include those numbers when we're finding Q1 and Q3. Okay? Now, moving on to a little bit of a bigger data set, this still has, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 data points. So it still has an even amount. But remember, our first order of business is to order them from least to greatest. So when I'm looking at this, I see that my smallest number is 21. And right after that, I have a 22. So I can go ahead and mark off. I've got 21. I've got 22. Well, I also have 29 there in my 20s. So I'm going to add 29 to my data set. And then I see a 30, which comes right after 29. So I can go ahead and write that. I've got 30. Next, I see two 34s. So 1, 2. I'll make sure to add in two 34s. 1, 2. And then I have 36 and 41 left. So there I added my 36 and I added my 41. So we're good. We've got all 8 data points here. Now, because I know that there are 8, a little trick that I could do is, well, I know half of 8 is 4. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. And on this side, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means my middle is right here. It's going to be right in between those two numbers. So then I can, again, add those two numbers together. 30 plus 34 is equal to 64. Divided by 2 is 32. And that makes sense because 32 is exactly in the middle of 30 and 34. So my median for this data set is 32. Okay? Now, once again, 32 is not truly in my data set. So I'm not using it when I'm finding quartile 1 and quartile 3, but I am using that 34 and that 30, okay, to show the lower and the upper half of my graph. So this one gets a little bit trickier when we have, again, if I'm looking on this half, I have 4. That's an even number. So that means that there's not going to be a true center as I'm looking at this. So I have 21 and 30, my high and my low. Well, look, in between here, 22 and 29, that's where my quartile 1 is going to fall. So just like with the median, when I have 2 in the middle, I do 22 plus 29, and that gives me 51. And I take my 51 and I divide it by 2, and that gives me 25 and a half. Okay, so 25 and 5/10. That is my Q1. 25 and 5/10. Okay, now looking at Q3, same deal here. We've got one low, one high. Well, look, we've got 2 in the middle, so we've got to go right in between. Well, we know that the exact number between 34 and 36 is 35. So that means my Q3 is 35. Now that I've got those, I can find my IQR, which remember is big minus small. We have Q3, 35, minus Q1, which is 25. So when I take 35 and I subtract 25 and a half, I get 9 and a half. So 9.5. That is my IQR for this data set. Okay, so I've already sorted my third data set from least to greatest just for the sake of time. So we have it in order from least to greatest over here. Now this data set has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're back to an odd number here, just another refresher of how we find IQR with an odd number data set. So here, one low, one high, low, high, low, high, and high. So that gives me 49 for my median. Okay, so I've got 49 for my median. If I have a true median, I like to circle it regardless. But that also reminds me that when I look at my upper and my lower quartile, I do not include that 49. Okay, so that's very, very important to remember. Now, when we're looking at this, we see that we have an even number. We have 4 numbers in my lower quartile. So one low, one high. Well, my median or my Q1. So Q1 is the median of the lower quartile. So that Q1 is going to be between 42 and 45. And when I take 42 plus 45, I get 87. And 87 divided by 2 gives us 43.5. So my Q1 here is 43 and 1/2. Okay. And then looking at my upper quartile at 52 and 63 that I can mark off, well, I know that my Q3 is going to be in between 56 and 61. So when I add those two together, I get 117 divided by 2, and that gives me 58 and 1/2. So my Q3 gives me 58 and 1/2. Okay. Now, remember, IQR is interquartile range. That's the big minus small. So the interquartile means Q3 minus Q1. So we have 58.5 minus 43.5, and that gives us an interquartile range of 15. And I just want to talk very briefly about interquartile range and truly what that is. All that means is that the middle section of your data ranges 15 points here. Okay, so because remember, Q1 and Q3, in between here, this is 50% of the data. This is half the data falls in between in this box, what it would be if we were drawing a box and whiskers. Okay, and that means that that is the middle, true middle of the data, the middle 50%. And if we were to take out the outside edges of the data, the top 25% and the lower 25%, then the range would be 15 here. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope that you guys have an easy time with your DLD today. Enjoy.